Bicara Supply Chain, highlighting and showcasing solutions for the most complex challenges facing the industry in 21st century by our team of subject matter experts and mentors. Broadcasting every week, all year round, we will present the most up-to-date series of podcasts and webinars.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bicara Supply Chain. This is Nur Hadi and I am speaking now with Radu Palamariu. He is a Managing Director at Alcott Global. This is executive search and supply chain consulting based in Singapore. Today's topic is leadership in supply chain. Thank you and welcome to the show, Radu.
My pleasure, Nur Hadi, and thank you for having me.
Okay, so for those who didn't know you, can you please brief a bit about yourself and what do you do?
Sure. So Alcott Global, our company, is specialized in recruitment and executive search for the supply chain, manufacturing, logistics, and transportation industry. So basically, we help companies in terms of finding their executives to lead those companies forward and hopefully to better and continued success across Asia Pacific, as well as we have offices and partner network globally, really. So Europe, Middle East, and US, as well as Africa. And we also have a consulting arm where we basically work and partner with companies around projects with that have to do with supply chain transformation, procurement transformation, logistics transformation, and a number of the technical and digital platforms within supply chain. So simply put, we are a connector of the supply chain ecosystem in Asia and globally.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you something about the leadership style and also people management, because managing people is an integral part of supply chain management, and effective leadership is very, very essential thing. So my question is, what does good leadership in supply chain look like?
I guess it's a $1 million question, and it always, all businesses are about people. Mm-hmm. It's never actually about technology. It's people that make or break a business. It's not necessarily technology that makes or breaks a business. So in that context, leadership is as important as it has ever been. Yeah. And in my mind, when we are talking, and also when we are recruiting for some of our clients, whether it's a chief supply chain officer, whether it's a CEO of a shipping company or logistics company, or whether you have platforms like Grab or Gojek in Indonesia and in Southeast Asia, or you have different other players, I think there are certain common traits that make good leaders. Number one, I would say, is a non-stop focus on people. I think it's sometimes it's almost too simplistic. But a lot of the times we found it that once you manage to reach a certain level, sometimes some of the executives forget about the people element and only look at numbers, which is wrong, I think. So I think the good leaders are the ones that care about people, the ones that are authentic, care about building relationships. Definitely it's important that they set a vision for the company, that they're clear what they want to achieve. Mm-hmm. But it's even more important to help the troops, to help the teams, to help their subordinates, to help the whole organization connect to that vision, connect to why is it important to follow that vision, and to obviously follow the leader. So I think this people element, focus on people, be authentic, be vulnerable, admit when you make mistakes, show empathy towards people is a crucial element of leadership. Number two, I believe that good leaders are forever learning. They need to have this thirst of continuously learning. Learn, unlearn, relearn. In today's world, you can never say that you know it all. You can never say, oh, I've done this for many, many years and this is the way this industry works. That is a sure recipe for disaster. So I believe good leaders continuously learn, continuously develop, continuously try to pick up new things, new skills, keep themselves abreast of new technologies. And that also helps them, obviously, in terms of navigating the company and crafting that vision of the company. And I think number three is a key element of leadership, is the ability to build partnerships, whether it is within the organization, because if you're a chief supply chain officer, you need to be a very good partner of the CEO, but also of the sales, of the marketing teams, of the CFO, right? You need to have those strong internal partnerships, as well as external partnerships, right? With startups, with different platforms, because you want to create solutions for your organizations and to partner with other smaller entities sometimes, or bigger entities, to push your organization forward faster. So I think that ability to build strong partnerships is key. So as a conclusion, I think these are the three most important. So number one, it is all about the people and people skills, as basic as it may sound. Number two is constantly learning, and number three, building partnerships.
Yeah, perfect. So I wanted to jump another questions where probably you know that the supply chain is changing quickly, and now the world of supply chain is facing of the COVID-19 issue. So in your opinions, how leaders drive supply chain transformation in the uncertainty situation like what happening now?
Firstly, it's an unprecedented situation, and I do believe that there is a silver lining. Mm-hmm. And that silver lining is most, if not all, companies are very clear now, and the board level and the boardrooms are very clear that supply chain is a key, if not vital, function of the organization. Because right now in this crisis, without supply chain, if you are a manufacturer of a product, I mean, I'm not talking technology companies, I'm not talking, banks, but I'm talking if you're in manufacturing of something, without supply chain, with this crisis, you're basically doomed. It's very simply, right? Very simple, very logical. So I think what is happening, and in some ways it's a silver lining for the manufacturing and supply chain as a profession, as well as for logistics and transportation professionals, is that the whole world is beginning or really realizing the impact and the importance of this function, which is great, right? Which is great for the function. Of course, it's not great that we had to go through this crisis to get to this level of awareness, but okay, it's a silver lining.
Yeah.
Now, to your question in terms of how do they continue to transform the company. So I guess maybe transformation is a big word, because really what is currently happening is a lot of organizations and most people are in crisis mode. You are in absolute firefighting mode, and it's basically survival, or maybe survival is not the best word. So some will survive and some will thrive, some will do even better, if they demonstrate that they have that agility and they have that resilience and flexibility of supply chain in order to be able to adapt to the current situation, which is crisis. You have, half the world in lockdown. You have multiple manufacturing in lockdown. You have significant issues with moving goods, right? So, I mean, firstly, about one to 2 months ago, we had China as a big issue, right? But now, China kind of has gotten out of the situation, but you have Europe, you have US, you have most of Southeast Asia now under lockdown. So supply chain leaders and professionals need to navigate this sea of challenges, right? In terms of how do you still produce goods? How do you move goods? How do you deal with incredible drop in demand, right? Because now what has happened, the demand has not totally disappeared, but has significantly dropped, right? In terms of the big markets in the West, in Europe or US. So I think the best leaders are the ones that are able to navigate all these uncertainties in this crisis, that are able or were able to assemble great teams, because now the true good teams show themselves, right? Because if you did not have a proper team in place, now is the worst time for you. Now you will really struggle, right? If you did not have your supply chain experts, your logistics, your procurement, your operations experts in place, you're really in trouble. I'll give you an example. One of my clients, which is a major manufacturing company of healthcare equipment, the chief supply chain officer was fortunate as well as a good leader, and he managed to assemble, because about 70% of the manufacturing is in China, managed to assemble a team when he first joined the company, which was 12 months ago, of experts in China, Asia, as well as the rest of the world. Now, because he had a deep China experience, he was able to preempt the fact that this crisis will happen. he saw the virus, because the virus was there in January already, right? So he realized this is going to blow out of the proportion. And together with his team and working together with their suppliers, with their vendors, with their subcontractors, they said, look, guys, we need your help. We will commit to fulfill all our orders. And by the way, we'll give you additional orders, but you need to come back from Chinese New Year. As many listeners know, the Chinese New Year is 2 weeks of total pause in China. So they convinced their vendors to come back 1 week earlier to work and deliver most of their products. So now, when the crisis actually hit, they still had very good pipeline of product, and they were able to deliver to their clients. Mm-hmm. So that's a good example of making use of the crisis to actually gain market share. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of companies have not been as fortunate, and that, obviously there's many examples for that. So if I am to backtrack to your question, I think that is good leadership, ability to navigate this crisis to your benefit. Also, ability to use this crisis as a catalyst for transformation, in a sense of there's a lot of startups. There are a lot of digital solutions, Nurhanti, and you know it, and our audience knows it, that can be deployed within 2 to 4 weeks. And it might sound astonishingly, but there's digital factories. There's a bunch of pretty accurate visibility tools that can be deployed within 2 to 4 weeks. It's just that a lot of organizations historically, have been used to the Oracles and the SAPs and the IBMs of the world, which usually take months, if not years, to implement, and it's tedious and it's full of risks. And 2, they never had that crisis mode activated, that they had to do it, right? So now what's happening, this activation of these new solutions to get you visibility, to get you, where is my goods, where's my demand, where is my forecast, where's my planning tool, what's my factory doing? Because all of a sudden you have the crisis mode on and you no longer have any idea. It's fastening, it's speeding up this digitalization in many ways. So that's another thing that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So can you please tell us how to grow our leadership skills and competencies in the supply chain?
It's a great question, and it also links very well that with all the aspiring maybe professionals that are listening to us, and it's a question that I do get a lot whether in conferences or when speaking also to students, because there's a lot of there's also the debate that is a leader born or is it made, and probably the answer is somewhere in between, right? Because there are definitely certain conscious actions that we can take as supply chain professionals to get the right fundamentals in place for us to be best prepared as well as positioned to get to a executive level role or a leadership role in the future. And some of the building blocks to me are, 1, very strong networking skills. So I think where a lot of professionals, especially if you're in operations, if you're in supply chain, logistics, most of us in the industry, or most of the people in the industry, they want to get stuff done, right? That's that's why we're here. We're here to deliver. We're here to make. We're not here to sell. We're not here to blah, blah. We're not here to, be glamorous. That's the job of the sales guys, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of say a bit of a stereotype. But in reality, those networking and ability to build partnership skills are so much necessary, because you are not an island. You don't exist as a standalone function. So I would say that ability, and again, if you want to simplify it, it's people skills, isn't it? So those people skills are crucial part of the development of any leader in supply chain and in any other function to that matter. Now, the second bucket where I would put as a fundamental to growing your leadership skills is, of course, you need to, be involved in many different projects and lead teams, right? I mean, again, it sounds very basic, but, if you've never led a team, how can you be a leader? That's 1. And 2, it's also that depth of experience, because you can't really call yourself a supply chain professional if you haven't truly tried different angles, right? You should have tried a warehouse, you should have gone to logistics, you should have gone to procurement a little bit, you should have understood how an SNOP and a planning tool works, you should have gone into IT and the tech side as well. So you should try to experiment as much as you can. Volunteer if you are still earlier in your career, volunteer to take on projects, volunteer to be part of extra curriculum, maybe if you want activities, just to give yourself that breadth of experience. So I think that's another very important piece. And thirdly, what I would say is also very important, if you can, getting international experience. So working in different continents is ideal. If you manage to work, Asia is a must, right? Asia is definitely the place to be, the place that is growing the most in the whole world, right? Of course, I'm biased, and we are biased, Nurhandi, we sit in Asia, but it's undoubtedly that the economic growth is here the most in the world. But then, if you get Asia, maybe you get in Australia, maybe you get in Europe or Africa or Middle East or US, that would be amazing because you get different perspectives. If not, different countries also work, right? Because it's one thing to work in, in Indonesia, it's another thing to work in China, it's another thing to work in Japan, just giving examples. And the fourth thing that I think everybody needs up to a point, and even when you're in a CEO position, and this thing is probably the $1 million sauce to success. And this $1 million sauce to the success in leadership and getting to an executive position is having great mentors and coaches.
Mm-hmm.
To have a great mentor, whether you ask the CEO of your company, whether you ask your manager, whether you ask, somebody from the industry that somebody that has already gotten to the success and to the level that you want to get, giving you advice on how can you fast track your journey there is absolutely invaluable. Mm-hmm. So I would say that is the $1 million sauce to the success in leadership in supply chain.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So this is my last questions. In summary, what's the characteristic of supply chain leaders must have in today's environment?
Yes, so I would say that what is crucial is that thirst for knowledge, a deep desire to be technically savvy. So this is maybe something I haven't spoken about as much, but without technology, there is basically no future. That is 100% clear. So in the future and in the present, what is key is, data, big data, analytics. You're going to have more and more automation. We're going to have more and more artificial intelligence, cognitive intelligence, and all this new and interesting developments. We're having blockchain. We're having all these different new tech tools to enable us as supply chain professionals to push the industry and to push the profession forward. So I think everybody in the supply chain arena, whether you're in the warehouse or whether you're in the office, if you want to be in a management or a leadership role, you need to understand the technology that is driving supply chain. You need to understand Industry 4.0. You're probably familiar with that term, Nurhandi. There's a number of initiatives there. The World Economic Forum has pushed quite strongly on that agenda. You have Internet of Things. You have, a number of other initiatives there. So I think this is crucial. We need to really, as professionals of the now and of the future in supply chain, we need to be technology knowledgeable or tech knowledgeable. We don't need to be experts, you don't need to be a coder, you don't need to be a software programmer, but you need to understand the principles. So I think that is a key element to it. And on top of that is the things that we have already discussed, build relationships, build partnerships within organizations as well as outside of the organization, and keep yourself constantly learning, open and developing.
Thanks, Radu. It was really nice discussion, and there are a lot of useful tips that you have shared with us, and it would help everyone here to improve their leadership skill. So, thanks again. See you and goodbye.
Thank you. Terima kasih.
At Bichara Supply Chain, we are committed to driving global perspective to embrace technological adaptation in improving process efficiencies. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share Bichara Supply Chain. And stay tuned for the latest updates. To learn more, visit our website www.bicharasupplychain.com. Thank you for listening to us. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode.